what happened to the stream.
Fair.
I'm pretty sure the CPU just went crazy.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Let's see it again. I'll just check my CPU while we're at it.
Okay, now we're back.
So yeah, I see it now.
Yeah, I see it.
I'll just end any tasks that are running in the back. But
Wait, it stopped for me.
did it stop?
Nope.
I see it live still.
Oh, okay. All right.
I see one person is watching it right now. But the video itself has stopped.
It stopped?
I could be, or maybe it's the still image, so never mind. Maybe I'm totally off. But yeah, I think we can, it's the still image, so never mind. Maybe I'm totally off. Watching the stream. But yeah, I think we can, I think it might just be the still image, so never mind. Maybe I'm totally off.
Same thing.
But yeah, I think we can, I think it might just be the still image, so never mind. But yeah, I think we can, I think it might just be the still image, so we have someone, my friend, said he was going to come and check out this stream and help us out.
Is there any issues? Or
no, there's no issue actually.
okay, cool.
I think we're good. Did you guys have a number of people who are watching the stream?
I see 3 right now.
I see.
I see 4 now.
Okay, great. I guess for those of you who are here, welcome, and please feel free to type in your name, your school, and your email so that we ambassadors can figure out which school you're coming from and hand out prizes for those of you who try out these CODY challenges.
Hey, Pranav. Thanks for joining. We'll get started soon. maybe we should get started.
Yeah, I think it would be a good time, to start now. Should we introduce ourselves maybe to the people who are here? And
Sure.
Great. Peter, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So hey everyone, I'm Peter. I don't think you can see my face, but I am behind the scenes right now. But yeah, I am UC Berkeley's MATLAB student ambassador, and this is a coding competition where we're going to do some MATLAB coding, and there's going to be some prizes at the end. For those who are in Berkeley, I can pass out some prizes, and who are not, there are Amazon gift cards too.
Great, thank you. And this is Alex. I'm the student ambassador for Davis. Thank you guys for joining in. And for those of you from Davis, or all of you who are watching the stream, if you can type in your email address and the name on the chat, that would be awesome for us so that we can send out these prizes. And welcome. Excited to get started.
Okay, hi folks. My name is also Peter, but people can call me Peter number 2 or Peter from SFU. Well, I'm the MATLAB ambassador here from San Francisco University. And if you are from SFU as well, welcome. Glad to see you guys here. And of course, I'll also be handing out prizes for those that are from my university. Hope you guys have a good competition and we'll have a lot of fun. I'll pass it down to our host, Bathia here, and he will get us started here.
Hi guys, sorry for the delay at the beginning. My laptop is overheated, but I'm ready and we're ready to start again. I'm Bhavia. I'm the University of Alberta MATLAB student ambassador. I'm very happy to start the CODY event now. Alright, so I think we can start now, so I'll just get it ready.
Wait, did you end the stream?
No, it's still running. Sorry?
Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's all good. I'll go to the link for the CODY challenge then. Peter, can you just send the link for the CODY?
Yeah. No, it said stream ended.
It ended?
In the chat, yeah. Oh.
It still says it's public. Check again. Do they think it ended because still?
That's working for me.
Yeah, I think
Maybe
it's
some people
working.
have bad connection.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
Sorry about that. That's alright. We'll go to the question then.
Yeah, so I just sent 2 questions in the chat, and first you do need a MathWorks account to get started, and then once you have an account, you can solve these questions. So we're going to give prizes to the first person to be able to solve both of these questions. I picked the questions. I don't think they're too hard. One of them is about rounding numbers to a certain number of decimal places, and the other one is about adding, subtracting, multiplying numbers together to get a final result. But the numbers you add and multiply, you have to do one different operation to them to get the opposite of that number. So it's called reverse calculator. So if anyone has any questions about these, we'll be here to answer these questions. But if not, we can get started on these 2 questions. And once you're done, just let us know in the chat and we can verify that.
Alex, I think you muted.
Thank you. I did want to say that for those of you who are in a university and have an email associated with that university, you automatically have a MathWorks account. So go ahead, go on the MathWorks website and create your account using your student credentials. And it should be pretty easy to, if you don't already have it, just create an account.
sorry, Peter. I think I don't think you posted the questions in the chat. Oh, the chat two links above. No worries.
Yeah.
I see it.
Yeah. So I put two hyperlinks here. The one that ends in 2133 and 2120. Those are the two questions we're going to be doing for
And I'll go to
this round.
Okay, I think you can send it one more time, if that's alright. And I can also live stream the question as well.
Yeah, why don't you change to one of the questions so everyone can see it?
So I think one of the questions was number manipulation. What's the question? So it's reverse calculator, and this is the link right here, and I can send that as well. Here's the first link, everybody. This is for reverse calculator. No worries.
Are you able to pin it?
Yep, and I also pinned the message.
And yeah, if you guys have any questions, you can ask the chat. And when you're done, just let us know when you're done and then post like a short description of how you solved the question in the chat as well.
feel free to type any questions that you have on the chat. We're friendly and we can help you guys out, or maybe it's a question of syntax, we can send you some links so you can see specifically on the MATLAB forum how you can make that specific operation work. Yeah, feel free to ask questions, and yeah, we're gonna maybe give you guys about 5-7 minutes more before we can go over some solutions.
Oh, so it looks like you finished. Maybe can you post your solution in the chat and we can take a look? And to everyone else, feel free to keep working. Oh yeah, can you copy paste the function into this chat here? And yeah, and then together we'll walk through the solution and see what it was. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, I think this solution looks approximately right. You don't have to post the rest. So basically, we have array normal with numbers 9 all the way to 0. And then from this, we have num1 and num2 from the numbers, and we have an operator. So what we're doing is we're indexing into the normal array at a different spot. So we're getting a different number, and then we're applying a different operation to that number based on what the operation was. And you have to use a string comparison because the operator is a string into the function that we have. So like in the example, we have numbers 3 and 4 and the plus. So we go 3 to 6, which is what's happening in that normal array. And then that 4 becomes a 5, which is also what's happening in that normal array. And then we do 6 plus 5 to get 11, which is what is happening in the string comp function where we look at the string plus, and then we have the value where we add them together. And then I assume at the end, you just return that value. Okay. Congratulations. You did it. So I'll send an email following up to you to get a prize over.
Nice job.
If anyone else wants to work on this question, we can stay for a few more minutes. Otherwise, I think we should move on to the next question. Yeah, okay. Looks like we should start moving on to the next question. So, Bhavya, can you post the next question in the chat here?
Yep, I'll just send it.
Yeah, so this question, I don't think is as hard, but the solution is a little bit different. So what you do is you take in a number and you round it off to n decimal places. So you take the number and n, and you return the rounded number. Yeah. So like before, go ahead and get started on this question. And we will be giving prizes to those that finish. So once you finish, just message the chat and let us know. And for this question, the solution, there could be a very simple solution or a more roundabout solution. Both aren't as hard, but one of the solutions is extremely simple. So if you have an idea, feel free to shout that one out in the chat and you could get a prize for it. So I think num to string, I see what you're saying. I don't think that's 100% right. Try num to string with another function maybe, because that doesn't do the rounding. I think that just cuts it off at a certain point. Oh, okay. Good job, Pranav. You got it. You can just call a round function, and it's the built-in function in MATLAB. So the other way to do it would just be to do like a while loop, mod it by 10 every single time until you get it a certain number of times to reconstruct the number. But in this case, yeah, MATLAB has a built-in round function that you could use. So this is kind of just like a one-line solution, but it works. Yeah. All right. Good job, Pranav. You will also be getting a prize. So from the last two questions, maybe we'll wait like 3 minutes. If anyone has any questions on this question or the last question, let us know and we'll be here to answer those questions.
I do want to mention with that last question, with this rounding off numbers to n decimals, the round function does round and it works, but you still have to deal with the zeros. So you can, so long as you get rid of the zeros, then it should work. So if you type in round xn into the function, it's not going to work because you still have the zeros. So you have to account for the zeros that come after the decimal places, because it rounds up to that number, but it keeps on the rest of that specific digit or something. So be sure to account for the zeros, and then it should work pretty easily. Yeah, you can definitely do something like change it to a string and then iterate through each character, or yeah, if it finds a zero, you don't add it or break through that, and then have that be your solution. Yeah.
Hey, I see someone from SFU. Welcome. We'll be starting our next problem shortly, I believe. Sit tight.
Alright, so we just have a new problem here. So I'll just go right to it. It's problem 138, and I'll just put this in the YouTube chat. So we have a new question pinned now.
Okay, so in this question, we have a number, unsigned integer, and we're just going to assume 1 or greater, so all positive values, 1 or greater. And we want to return the number of ones in the binary representation of this number. So the binary representation is just zeros and ones, where like the first element is just going to be 2 to the power of 0. And if it's a 1, we add that to the number. And if it's not a 1, we don't add that to the number. And then the second element is going to be 2 to the power of 1, all the way up to 2 to the power of 2, 3, 4, etc. And all the numbers can be represented this way. So for example, the number 8, for example, would be 1, 0, 0, 0. So that'd be 2 to the power of 3, because we have a 1, plus 0 times 2 to the power of 2, plus 0 times 2 to the power of 1, plus 0 times 2 to the power of 0. So this function is going to take in an integer, and we're going to output the number of ones in the binary representation. Does anyone have any questions on how this works? So maybe we can do this one together. Yeah, exactly. That is a very good built-in function we should probably use. I think you meant dec to bin, DEC to bin, but it will take in the decimal representation and output you a string in the binary representation. So yeah, that's perfect. So once we call that, what should we do? Now that we have a string in the binary representation of just zeros and ones.
Hey, Peter, any chance that you can present on the meeting that we have now, and then we can just switch the tabs so we're not showing the question, we just show you working through it so we can kind of watch you, and
Sure.
I can also share mine too, but
Sure, we can do that. Am I spotlighted?
Yeah. And I'll just pin you 1 second. Yep, you can share now.
Okay, perfect. Let me share my screen. Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah, I think you can. I think you can also zoom in as well. Sorry.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think this works really well. You can see pretty clearly.
Okay, perfect. So we have a function here that's taking in an integer x, and we want to set y equal to the value of x that has the number of ones in it. So if we take a look at this function, des to bin, we are taking in a decimal number, and then it's coming out to a binary string. So in this example, 23, we're putting it in here, and we get this. So let's just verify this is right. So we have 1 plus 2 plus 4 plus 16. So 16 plus 4 is 20, 2 is 1, 3, 2 plus 1 is 3, so this is correct. So, and in the case of 23, we'd want to output 1, 2, 3, 4, because there's 4 ones. So let's just start with this function. We want to input x. So now we have binary string, and we want to count the number of ones in this binary string. So does someone in the chat want to say how to do that? Maybe someone should help me. Okay, so one strategy that I can think of, the most basic, is looping through the entire string, comparing elements, seeing if the element is 1, adding it to a counter, and then returning what that counter is. So in that strategy, for example, we could start at this 1, see if it is a 1. If it is a 1, add it to a counter that starts at 0, and then check, oh, this one's not a 1. So then we'll put that one in, we won't update the counter. And then for the remaining 3, we'd update that counter and then return what the total count is. So that's one strategy. But with MATLAB, there's probably like more built-in functions that we could use to do this. So let's see if there are any that exist. The other Peter from SFU is recommending NNZ. So in this case, it's letting us know the number of non-zero elements in a matrix. So here we've got 4 non-zero elements, so we have 4. Here, magic 5 by 5. Oh, so this one's for meeting a certain condition greater than 10. It's relational operations, produce logical matrices, ones and zeros, the n and z function. Yeah, can we use string find? I don't think so, because I think that tells you the actual part, like which index that one occurs in. But let me see. Yeah, so in this case, oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, so we could use string find here, put in a 1. It would tell us the number. It would return us an array of where this is occurring. So this one's in. So this one occurs at the second element right there. In right here is probably the 15th element. So then we'll get this one here. And then after we're done, we can just return the size of k. But one issue we need to consider potentially could be that we have multiple ones. So I think this function would work. Let's try it. And then set it to the length of is it length? Wait, length of oh, okay. Well, yeah, so from the error that we're getting here, we have these ones as like an array of numbers, matrix of numbers, whereas these ones are just a single number. So seems like we have the code working for a single number. We just have to update it for multiple numbers. So how should we do that? So we could, for example, create an empty array or matrix of the same size. And from that empty array or matrix of the same size, we could set it all to be zeros, for example, or negative ones, for example. And as we iterate through, we could do a loop that goes through, in this case, one loop, and then the other loop could be for like its size. So in this case, we just go one by one across. And from there, we could replace every single element within this array for that value. Let's see, without the des to bin function, could we also divide the decimal by 2 and count the number? Yeah, so that's how I believe the internals of the des to bin function is actually doing. So MATLAB code, like all these built-in functions, are built on other pieces of code. either in MATLAB, and I'm pretty sure behind the scenes is actually C code. So behind all of this, there's code that goes through and solves it in a much more efficient way that we don't have to deal with, and it's very much abstracted. So we can just like call a desc to bin, and we could get like the binary representation of a decimal number pretty quickly. Yeah. Does anyone have any better way to do this than to just loop through all of the elements? Okay, if not, then I think we can do that. So we want to start with x, and we want to loop through the entire size of x. So we want to get the dimensions of x, and let's do that. So every time I do this, I just go look up the documentation just to make sure I don't flip like the rows and columns around or something like that. Okay. So if we only want the second dimension of A, we'll put it this way. So we want the first dimension and the second dimension. Okay, so we've got the first dimension and the second dimension. Oh, whoops, right here. Based on the input x. Does this make sense? Yes? Okay, so now we just need to do a for loop, and the for loop has to be for both of the dimensions. So we'll start with for, let's just call it I is equivalent to from 1 to 1. And what this is doing is we're creating two variables, I and j, that iterate through the matrix or potential matrix that we have, that is x here. And from there, we know we're jumping by 1 because we start at 1, and then we can write it this way where we have this 1 here being like the same jump by 1. But without it, MATLAB assumes that it's already 1. So we have 1 colon, and then the size, we're just going through putting that jumping by 1 every single time. So now we're indexing. So the next step we need to do is to get a specific element into x. And then from that specific element of x, we're going to call the function that we had before. So let's call this x of ij. So we're going to get the ij part of x. And does anyone want to go over how to do this? Anyone in the chat? Well, you can just go into x and then index into ij like that, just to get a specific element. So let's actually, from the beginning, start with what we want to return, and then just set this to be zeros. So like if we have a return, we have zeros. We can't call it return. This is the return value. We have zeros. And we have this and this. So what this is doing is this is creating a matrix or a number or whatever of size x, and they're all going to be initialized with zeros. So you could have ones, like there's the function called ones of that, and it does the same thing. And these are just typical functions you can just call to initialize the same size of the matrix X. Yeah, so from here, we index, we get X, we get the value that we want here. And then now what we want to do is from the value that we want to call in string, and then we want to find this length here. But rather than setting it equal to y, we want to set it equal to the returns values ij, and then at the end we'll set y equal to return value. So there could be bugs in this code, but let's see what happens. Oh, okay. Line 7, column 20. Check for missing or extra characters. Oh. I don't need those colons. Yep. Need to have ends. Okay. Oh, perfect. Okay, we did it.
Nice, perfect.
We did it. Okay, what is this? I give that a medium. Okay, does anyone have any questions about this question and how we walk through it to do it? So a quick summary, we got the size of the potential matrix array or just a number of X. We set up a matrix array or just a number of a 0, and we call that our return value. And because our function has a y here, we want to output y to be this return value. And in order to do so, we need to loop through all of the elements and replace specific elements that were 0 with this new element that we found by converting the decimal to a string of binary numbers and then finding the length of the number of ones that occur in there. So I think this is a pretty good solution. Not that many lines, and went through it pretty quickly. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions on this? Yeah, and one other thing to learn is there's probably a lot of built-in functions in MATLAB, like this dest to bin, string find function. And if you're doing something that you think that there's probably a built-in function for, there probably is. And just Google around and you'll find exactly what function you want. Yeah. All right, we'll take like 3 minutes break / whatever questions you have about this question or the previous questions. Just let us know in the chat. And yeah, if you haven't already, please let us know that you're here in the chat. Just say your name, your email, what school you're from, so we can get some prizes and stuff over for attending.
Sanjar, you asked if it's possible to view solutions without solving the problems. I don't think there is. You can, I think, after failed attempts, see other people's previous solutions. I think that could be helpful to those who just can't get past the bugs. But yeah, ultimately, it's one of those things that you can probably find online, like how to solve this, and other people can comment their like approach to it, and you can find solutions that way.
Sure. And one other thing to add is there's a comment section at the end of all of these questions where people will just talk about the question, their approaches, and sometimes you'll find the code that someone else put in. Okay, so we're going to do one last question today. Alex is going to walk through it. Alex from UC Davis.
Yeah.
And
I'll just send the question into the thing. And I'll let Alex take over.
Great. Sweet. All right, let's do it, guys. Am I able to share the screen, maybe?
Yeah, I can just give it to you 1 second.
I have way too many tabs open. Give me a second.
Please take your time.
Sweet. So this question is, hopefully you guys can see it. Can ambassadors tell me yes, no?
yeah, looks good.
Sweet. Okay. So this question is about, so you have, for example, they give you a number, n, and you have to be able to output the number of little, I guess, asterisks that you need in order to create a triangle that is n rows. So from the example, they used 6, right? And if you want, 6 is a triangle for a, 6 is the answer for a triangle size number 3, right? Because you have 6 asterisks in a triangle that's 3 rows. You got 1, you got 2 on the second row, and you have 3 on the last row. So this can be a very simple problem where you can practice working through while loops. Do any of you guys have any ideas on approaches to this? So for example, if you look at the test cases, if you want a triangle that's size n, you're going to need size 1, you're going to need to have 1 asterisk. For example, in test case 2, if you want a triangle that's 3 rows big, the answer should be 6, because that's the number of asterisks you need in order to make that perfect triangle, and so forth. So just looking at this, is there any approaches that you guys can think of? Okay, I guess one of the first approaches that one could go about a problem like this is to kind of think of it as more like a math problem. How could you do this in a way that's simple and mathematically easy to reproduce on paper? So you can think of, for example, a factorial, where you have, say a factorial is 3, you have 3 times 2 times 1. But obviously we don't want to do a factorial approach to this because we want to add, we don't want to multiply. So that's a little hint for you guys. If you want to add numbers consecutively in a factorial fashion, how would you go about this? Well, I guess one of the ways that I can think of in order to go through a problem like this is to iterate through, I guess, you want to keep track of the number of, let's call them asterisks that you need, right? So if we're going off of 1 here, you want to keep that number saved. And then you want to add to itself the number that of which it had. So you add 1 to 1, you have 2, and then you add 1 to 2, and you add 3. Oh, you have 3. I'm sorry. So you add 1 every single time, and you want to save that number. So that tells me that you're going to want to have a variable that you can store and is not going to change, and it's only going to change when you add a row. So we can call that variable t, why not? And you always want to start it with 0. That's going to be your variable that you output. That's going to be your answer. And so next, what you can try to do is you can use a while loop. That's what my approach would be. So the number of n is going to be the number of times that I add to my t. I think it'll make sense kind of as I explain it. Hopefully it makes sense. This is a really simple problem. So you can start typing in the while function and say, you want to set the limit as to when the while loop ends, correct? Otherwise, it would just go indefinitely. So you can And this you can use whatever variable you want. I like to use I. But then let's just say as soon as my while loop, as soon as it determines that it's equal, let's actually change that to n because I want this to be, as soon as the number turns to 0, as soon as the number of rows turns to 0, that's when I know I'm done. So this while loop is going to break. And then you do want to now add to your t the number of times you go through this, the number of times this while loop iterates through. So let's just start, for example, you can do a simple you could do something like this, where you're going to add t to itself. So let's just imagine that it's going through the first time around. The first time through, it's going to be n size big. Let's say it's 3, or test case is 3. So 0 equals 0 plus 3. Great. So now you have t equals to 3. And that would be the number 1. That would be your base layer. But then this is going to loop again. And the next time you want it to loop, you don't want it to be 3. You want it to be 2, right? Do any of you guys have any idea how to update the variable n? Currently, what we have is this while loop is still iterating through because we haven't set a limit. We haven't changed n. So this would actually give me an error because it's going to be running indefinitely since they haven't updated the variable n. So a way to update a variable really easily in MATLAB and in other programming languages, you can set it to itself and then update it by whatever number you want. In this case, because we want to decrease the number by 1 every single time this iterates, you do want to subtract 1 like this, right? So this way, t equals 0 the first time through, and n would equal 3 in this test case scenario. Right, so t right now is equal to 3. And then as you drop down to the next line of this code, you have n, which is still equal to 3, but now you've updated the n. So now it's going to go down to 2, correct? And now the next time it loops through, it's going to check, is 2 greater than 0? It is, so it's going to add t to itself, and 3 we said it was, t we said was 3, so now it's going to be 3 plus 2 now, and that's 5, and t is going to be 5 from now on, and n is going to go from 2 to 1. It's going to go the next time around. T is going to go 5 plus 1, and that equals 6. And n is finally going to be updated down to 0. And 0 is not greater than 0, so it'll exit, and you want to make sure you have a end to your loops like this. Otherwise, it might give you an error. Does this make sense so far? If you guys have any other approaches to something like this, please go ahead and share. There are more than one way to go about something like this. This is just kind of how I came up with it on the spot. But yeah, feel free to chat. This should now, we test it, so we set the test code equal to 3. And if we run the function, so it does give me 6. And okay, it's giving me an output of n, which is from this. I didn't silence that. Great. So now I should come out with 6 as my answer. We can try different numbers, make sure it works with other test cases. We get 15. That should work. I believe that was test case 3. Yep. And let's try, go ahead and submit. Great. So this worked first time around, which is not usually the case. A lot of the times there's a code and you have to go back and fix it. But this is a really good way that you can keep practicing on your skills and upgrading them, updating your skills, excuse me, by trying out different challenges. I think this was a 1.5. So you can kind of use that to, whatever you think you should look for in the problems. Maybe you should try just 1 dot. Maybe you should go ahead and try the 3 dots, make it a little more difficult. But yeah, I think this is it.
Yeah, that's going to conclude our CODY competition. Thank you all for coming. If you haven't already, please leave your name, email in the chat so we can get to you and get you some prizes. Thanks for attending and all of that. And of course, if you guys have any questions, we're going to still stick around for a little bit and answer those questions if you have any. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for coming, guys, again. And if you have any other questions as well, please feel free to contact any of us.
Okay, I guess we're ready to end the stream.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you guys again. I'll just end the stream now.
You guys are muted if you're talking.